In the Arctic, the only thing that stays the same is change. Today, you might be standing on solid ground, and tomorrow find yourself floating away on an iceberg. To keep up with all this change, Arctic animals have mastered some pretty cool tricks. These walruses are pinnipeds, relatives of seals. And like their cousins, they spend most of their lives in the water. When hunting for clams in the shallows, walruses can be pretty graceful, or rowdy depending on your point of view. But on land, all that blubber is hard to lug around on flippers. They need all the help they can get, and it comes in the form of tusks. You see, the walrus uses its tusks like crutches to climb up onto rocks and packs of ice. Tusks are also used to get mates. The male with the biggest tusks is probably the oldest. He's proved he can cope with lots of change, and that makes him the best to mate with. One way to deal with all this change is to stay above it. And nothing is better for this than wings. These murres use their wings for flying, all right, but not only in the air. Like their cousins in Antarctica, penguins, murres have mastered the art of flying underwater. In the Arctic Sea, it's the early murre that catches the fish. Swimming helps the murres exploit the open sea for food, but they can still take to the sky. That allows them to avoid bad weather and stay one wing beat ahead of killer whales and other ocean predators. Here's an animal that doesn't get out of anyone's way: the polar bear. It's the top predator in the Arctic and the largest land predator in the world. But many scientists consider the polar bear a marine mammal. It's easy to get confused because the polar bear spends much of its life in the water. The polar bear is related to the grizzly, but it doesn't eat roots and berries because there aren't any up here. The polar bear diet is pure meat, so its teeth are longer and sharper than those of other bears. Even so, life isn't easy for the king of the Arctic. For most of the year, male polar bears are on the move, looking for their favorite food: seals. Each year, they cover thousands of miles, paddling with strong forelegs and webbed feet. The polar bear can swim up to 60 miles without a rest, a useful skill when icepack turns to ocean. But the polar bear can also stay under the surface for up to 2 minutes, allowing it to sneak up on unsuspecting seals from below. And cold water is no problem. Unlike other bears, it has lots of blubbery fat to keep it warm. When times are tough, the fat helps them survive for a long time without eating anything at all. But the bear's best trick is its coat. It's good camouflage, but there's more to it than disguise. The outer hairs are hollow, which helps the bear float. The coat looks snowy, but only the hairs closest to the skin are completely white, and the skin itself is black. That's because dark colors trap heat from light better than bright colors. When it comes to adapting to different environments, humans are right up there with the best. The Inuit people have been here for over 1,000 years, and they've learned to live with change. Like the polar bear, they eat anything they can catch, from fish to walrus. Without fur or flippers, the Inuit rely on tools to survive. And the best tools are the ones that keep them moving. Some of their tools are modern, like motorboats that zoom around the summer sea, and skidoos that move whole villages when the sea freezes over. Others are old, like kayaks that allow the Inuit to stalk their prey through changing ice flows. And of course, teams of trusty sled dogs who can find their way in bad weather, and they're cuddly too. Whether old or new, the Inuit will use just about anything to get around. It all boils down to this: outfitted with special features and clever techniques, the residents of the Arctic manage to stay one step ahead of their ever-changing world. At least most of the time.